For Margaret and people that'll be watching on YouTube, welcome to the post-production presentation slash seminar slash GUTV thing. Yeah. So basically, after you've watched all the different other seminars are on filming and the process of starting pre-production, post-production is basically where you grab all the things that you filmed and then you assemble it into a story. So the first thing that foremost is that when you're working with video editing software, you need to organize your footage in a way that it's easy to find the files. So you want to make sure that everything has the right name, so the correct scene, correct take. And then you also want to separate the footage from the audio, from the music effects and sound effects, all in one folder. But what's most important is that you want to make sure that all your folders are in one massive folder, which would have your video file. Because if these are all separate in different documents, the actual Premiere Pro or any other video software will find it a lot harder for you to actually find the different stuff, and it just becomes a huge mess. And then after you organize your folders, that's when you can download the software. So we're going to be teaching you with Premiere Pro, and there's free trials, and there are student fees that you could purchase for. But also there are two other options which I think are very good, is iMovie or Hit Film Express, and the same tools that you learn with the Premiere Pro will be used in these two softwares because it's all about basics. It's just a different interface. So next, yeah.
So editing is a really important part of video production for a multitude of reasons. There's a lot of different ways that you can shape the narrative of your film, and a great way of doing this is through editing. So because editing can have such a big impact on the narrative of your film, it really can make or break your film. The reason why editing is so crucial is because it changes a lot of different aspects of the production specifically, regarding not only the production itself, so that's kind of in terms of the angles being used or the way that each clip kind of transitions to each other, but also in the way that the viewer and the audience interpret your film. So the way you could have the same exact two clips, and the way that you edit those clips together, whether that or separate, whether that's through zooming in or slowing down those clips, and there's a million of different things you can do. Those really change how the viewer sees that same clip. So it really, as you can see by the side, it adds suspense, danger, can invoke sadness, can happiness, laughter, all these different emotions. And so we're going to show you two quick YouTube videos which kind of emphasize what I just said about editing and the importance of editing. So this is the first one. I'll do mine first, and then I'll do Alvaro's.
We can't hear the audio.
Okay, wait.
Good.
Every artist should hold a desire to transgress his or her medium, and do so by advancing the methods of artistic creation that personify the form. This in turn can pave a path for future artists to enable even further advancement. The reinforcement of this philosophy is what makes art eternal. All art forms find their identity through characterizing techniques that make them self-contained systems which can't be replicated. And if there were one technique that distinguishes cinema, it's the craft of editing.
And editing is why people like movies, because in the end, wouldn't we like to edit our own lives?
Rather than the typical adage, which is that editing is the cutting up of film, many editors define it as the assembly of film. But beyond the basic function of putting a film together, the craftsmanship of editing can be dealt with such subtlety that it can be the foundation of a film's pace, its atmosphere. It can even be the enriching ingredient to strengthen all a film's themes, and you may not even notice. The best editing is often one that buries details of a movie into our subconscious, only for them to be realized later. Because the purpose behind a cut is not just to keep the plot moving, it's about control. The decision of what we get to look at lies on the editor, and they in turn hold total manipulation over our emotions.
You're a tough man, Rube. You gotta be in this business.
Although literature too has the ability to divert perspectives, cinema is able to create tangible visual context through its absolute control of space and time. Editing turns the act of movie making into the art of cinema.
Editing is manipulation. We're manipulating reality as the audience sees it, because you want the audience to respond in a certain way, whether it's a laugh, or a sigh, or a fright. Everything's manipulated. And some people say, well, this director, he's manipulating the audience. Well, that's so naive, because that's all we do is manipulate.
And then the second, I'm going to show. So this kind of, the second video kind of goes back to that idea of manipulation through editing, because as you can see, what was actually happening in the film was not actually what was happening in real life. And the way that we were able to trick the viewer, the audience, into thinking that there was this big train coming at the lady is because of our ability to manipulate through editing. Do you have anything else to add on that, Alvaro?
Just like with editing, there's always a rhythm and there's always a pace that you want to be aware of. And once you bring in the music or bring in the sound effects, that can also change the way you edit as well. So it's all about finding like the right tone and the right pace that you as the editor or as the director want to achieve to create a certain feeling or emotion that comes out of that. Just like you were mentioning, the manipulation of it to create the emotions that you and therefore see in the visuals. So now I'm gonna share my screen. And so what I did for now is that I shot quick, like I went out to my yard and did a quick footage, shot a few footage of just myself. And what I want to show you is the way I organized it. So for my equipment, I had my phone, and then I used a empty bottle can and a chair for tripod and stabilization. So what I really want to stress about everything here is that you don't need to have fancy equipment. You don't need to have anything that you can't shoot on your phone to create a story and to edit it. So right now I'm showing you an example of something I did, and I want you guys to use these skills that you're learning here to make something of your own. And when I talk about organization, the first thing I do is I definitely organize the way my folder. So I have the post-production presentation folder. I have then a subfolder of footage where then I have the actual footage all laid out with scenes that way I can go back to it. So scene 1A, take 1, scene 1B, take 1, or like scene 4A, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what's really important is that you separate everything, as I was mentioning before, and then I already opened the Premiere profile inside the large folder that contains the same folder as the footage, because that way you have everything centralized in one place. So opening Premiere, I'll show you. So a regular Premiere project will look like this. So let me just do an example. So you're gonna open it, and it will look like, okay. just gonna close this for a second. So this is what you're gonna see when you have no footage inside Premiere. And so what you have here is on your right, bottom right is your timeline where you're gonna assemble all the clips together. Up here is,
I don't think we can see it.
oh, you can't? It's okay.
Yeah, I think you might need to share like the specific, either your entire desktop or.
Can you see this?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Perfect. So on the right, you have the timeline where you're gonna mention all, we're gonna assemble all your clips together. On the top right is where you're gonna see like the final view of your timeline, so how your timeline looks. On the left is where you're gonna have like your media bin and your footage, and then on the top left is gonna be where you're gonna see the where you can grab from the footage bin and drag it onto a timeline. So let me know if anything doesn't show up, but I'm just gonna I'm gonna double click on import, and I'm just gonna click the footage file that I already assembled, and I'm gonna import that into Premiere. And so you can see it here. And so here I have all my scenes, and then I can double click to open this and then rearrange it by organizing it by name. So I have everything here. So when you click the first scene, up here is what the left side is going to be the preview of it. And you can scroll through the preview. And when you want to start from the first scene, so that as I walk in here, I just press in your keyboard the I button, which will coordinate to this button here called Mark In. You press I, and then you scroll through, and then if I want to stop here, you press the Mark Out, which is O on the keyboard in Premiere Pro. And you're in the different softwares, it's going to be either the same thing or it may just be a different name, but it's all just creating an in and out point for you to grab from the footage. And then what I do is I grab this footage and I drag it to the timeline. And then you can see my timeline here. What's really important about this is that you can create once you drag the footage into your timeline, where you see where it says here scene 1A1, this is now your sequence. So if you go back to your project file, there's this here, it's called a sequence, and I usually like to name it timeline. And that's where all your footage is gonna be for your film. I like doing it this way because you can create a timeline beforehand, but then you have to like put in all the settings manually. But by dragging the clip, it grabs all the settings that from that video clip and brings it into a timeline and already arranges it. So it saves you a lot of time and formatting issues that you might come up with. Does anyone have any questions with that? Or no. Okay, so right now I have this scene here on my timeline, and let's say I want to cut it. If you look here, these are your toolbar, these are your different tools. So you have the most essential one is razor and the selection tool. With razor, you press the razor button and you can cut your scene in various different clips. And from there on, you can choose, okay, I don't want this scene. Instead, I can just press delete and you have that. Because then I want to add, let's say, another scene over here, where you have one clip, you want to drag that in, and then you want to put that there. But you see that it's too long, you can either drag it in like this, or you can cut it, like I showed you there. And this is just to assemble clips, because editing is all about creating transitions between your between your various footage to create one steady short film. And I don't know if you've seen the other seminars that GUTV has done, but one of the important rules is creating a 180-degree rule, and to make sure, where you want to make sure that your footage matches your next scene, unless you're trying to be more artistic, and then again it becomes up to the editor of how you want to portray the scene. But it's always good because you could either keep the audience engaged when you're editing, or you can disorient them very easily. So right here is just bringing and dragging clips in and then putting them together. I'm going to show you the project that I made a few minutes ago, already edited together, just to show you what that would look like. So let me know if you can't see it, but I think you can. Can you see this, the timeline? All right. So right here, these are all various clips that I got from my bin of footage into one linear story. And I'm just gonna play it for you guys to see, show you that's gonna look like. So press play. We'll do full screen for you guys. So as you can see, there's something very quick in a sense, but it was all it's a very simple shot. You have a master shot, you have some close-ups, and you can play around with them. And I had created some errors in there just so I can point out. So if you can see this scene, I'm walking from my right to the left, and I continue walking to the left. Now, I also shot a different side. And at this point, I would be breaking the 180-degree rule with this clip that I'm gonna show you now. So let me show you. So let me know if you see a difference. It's a little disorienting, right? Because you're going from right to left, but in this clip, you're going from left to right. So because I broke the 180-degree rule while filming, editing, I have to be careful to make sure that I don't use that clip. I use a different clip because if not, I can disorient the viewer. So, and then another different thing I did here is that with this clip, I'm picking up the axe here with my right hand, but I have it here in my left hand. So you can see how you have to be aware of continuity and making sure like that hopefully your viewers don't realize it, but to always be aware while you're filming that editing, there's always going to be continuities if it's not well. It's not thought of before. And then another example here of breaking the 180-degree rule is if I cut the axe, but then I use a different angle of it. So it doesn't seem like the axe is coming from a different direction. So these are just what you can do with the tool of editing and what you can do with the software with very simple clips to create just one story of someone chopping wood. And then at the end, I had to do quick cuts of the piece breaking off and then showing that. That's that of course you could always fix it and make it better. But just the simple tools here, as I want to mention, that I used was just cutting and trimming down the different clips and putting them together. There's also, down here, you have your audio. So if you see in your timeline, there's a split in the middle. From here to above is all your video footage, and from here below is all your audio footage. So when you drag the clip and footage from your footage thing here to the timeline, it's always going to be linked together. So what you do is you right click and then you unlink it. By doing that, so you have the flexibility to remove this audio, and hopefully if you have the availability, use audio from a different source, and then you can plug that in there. And then you can also stack videos together. So whatever you have on top is what's going to show up on the clip. So that way you guys don't see this. I just turned off that view, and then you see the one that was correct. Some other tools to remember is that this all can be moved up and down. Audio is always going to change. Audio is always very tricky to deal with, but to like lower it a little bit, you can lower this down or bring it back up. If you want to speed up or slow down the footage, you just right click on the footage, you go to speed and duration, and then you here can play with the duration. So if you want to make it faster, you can make it a lot faster. But the problem is that it all depends on the settings of the camera. So sometimes footage is not made to go really fast. It's not made to go really slow, depending on what frame rates you use. So right now, this is me speeding up just by pressing that. Some other things in the timeline to be aware of is just effects. All these software have an effects bin that you can put up. So you can do audio effects, audio transitions, colorize. So if you want to do color, you go here, you go to Lumetri. Sorry, it's called Lumetri. Lumetri color here. You drag it on the clip that you want to fix. And then in your effects controls on the left side here, when you press this tab, you can see your Lumetri over here, and then you have your basic corrections. So you can change the temperature and the tint, the exposure, and you can play around to give a real interesting feel, like different tones of the film. It's very interesting what you can do with color to actually like make your film look better than before. And honestly, if you guys have Premiere, or if you want to get Premiere, just play around with the different tabs and all, because there's so much you can do. Um, it's just a lot. There's the actual software has so many different things you can do with it. It's just discovering and playing around and trying to see what you can do. But the basics that you need to really understand is how to input the footage, how to cut, bring the stuff from the footage to your timeline, and then see what it looks like preview, and then connect them all together. And then if you want to export this footage, you go to File, Export, Media. You put all the settings, high bit rate, H.264, and then you press export, and then it goes out, and you're exporting the footage. Busy, am I missing anything?
I just kind of, and we're going to talk about this a little bit in the next slide, but I want to emphasize again, the subjectivity of editing. So kind of what Alvaro was just all explaining about how to do all of that. I do almost everything he just explained in a totally different way. But it's the same outcome, but I just have a different way of doing it. And that's because there's no right or wrong way to edit. It really is what you feel comfortable with, how you want to edit things, and that really just comes from experience. And kind of jumping on what Alvaro was saying about like play around with the features, like see what you're interested in, what you maybe you're you love to like focus on the colorization of the film. Maybe you're a little more into the like timings or the audio. Like there's different things that people are interested in, and it's really about just really learning for yourself what works for you and what doesn't work for you regarding this whole process.
And one thing, I remember when I first started using Premiere Pro or any other visual editing software, you look at it and it looks very, very complicated, and it might like freak you out and be like, okay, I don't know what to do. But you just got to take it step by step and understand the basics of, you need to have a starting point of your raw footage that brings it into your endpoint. And then that transition is from, that's why you have your left side for the raw footage and your right side for the final footage. So you can do both. So right now I could have my final view open, and let's say I want to add a different clip, I can look at the other clips here and see it, and see like the difference when I should start or when I shouldn't start. So that's what's really nice about like this software and these softwares, that you have both view of like the raw and the final, and you play around with it. And as you add more and more clips together, it becomes more confusing, but you can zoom to zoom in and zoom out, you press the plus and minus, and you can see how your timeline can grow or can grow exponentially depending how long your footage is. Margaret,
I
Dexter,
think,
do you have any questions?
yeah, Margaret has a question.
Yeah, I just said in the chat because I didn't want to interrupt you. I was just wondering what kind of computer you run Premiere on. Like, what are the specs of your computer? Is it a laptop?
Yeah, my computer is a laptop, and Premiere Pro really works on any laptop or any computer. And what I like about Premiere more than like, let's say iMovie is that if you have an HP computer or a Microsoft computer, iMovie is really predominantly for Macs. Like you can't get them on Microsoft, but Premiere Pro has these.
Right.
You can get them on both different types of computers, and it's still the same type of equipment. And I would suggest, if you want to get a free version of these editing software, Hit Film Express is free. You can get it for both for Mac and for Microsoft, and it's the same type of layout. It's just a different software, but it still does the same job. And spec-wise, like, it's not the actual software that's going to slow down your computer or may like lag. It's the how much footage you have or the quality of the footage. So if you shoot 4K footage and then you have a laptop that's, let's say, is 2 or 3 years old, that 4K footage might not be the laptop may not be powerful enough to run that 4K footage. So in that sense, if you see your software lag, you go to your final project here, and you can do, you see here I said half. You can lower this, you can lower the quality of the actual footage, so that when you're viewing it, it doesn't lag as much, because you're not watching 4K footage, you're watching like 720p footage or other type of footage where it's not predominantly just like the super powerful, like quality wise. I don't know if that answers your question. Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Then they give you free access, or the 2 years that you're participating in the minor. And I'm pretty sure also if you're into, and maybe Margaret, I think maybe into like animation, like I think they also give you kind of the Adobe pass, which like gives you access not only to Premiere but also to other Adobe related software.
Yeah, I can speak on that. I think if you're an FMST minor, which you, Dexter, you're a freshman, right?
Yeah, I'm a freshman.
So that's not you yet. Through Georgetown, there isn't a specific discount, but Adobe itself offers discounts for students. You just have to like register with your student ID, and it's a pretty decent discount.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah. Sorry, my Wi-Fi just crashed. Zoom life, I guess. So sorry, Margaret, did I answer your question?
Yeah, you totally did. That was helpful. Actually, the reason I was asking is because I got a pass. I was like at home last semester, but my computer could not run Premiere or After Effects. So I was wondering if you like had a fancier computer than me.
No, it's just the footage.
Regarding this, like the overload of footage as well, what a lot of editors do is they put all of their footage on an external hard drive, which I think also can help a lot, especially not only with the lagginess of the softwares, but also regarding like saving storage on your computer, and like being able to handle more projects at one time.
Yeah, that perfectly answers the question.
And also, if your computer is still slowing down because of the software, what you can do is you can close all your other apps.
Right.
Sometimes if you have like Safari or Firefox or Chrome running with Premiere Pro, surprisingly not, those take up a lot of CPU memory or CPU or RAM speed away from the program, and then that can create a lag. So that's also another problem.
Good.
And then and just to like reiterate, the most important thing about like editing is that not everyone knows every answer, every tool, every specific thing. So your best teacher and your best resource is YouTube or the internet. So if you have a specific, like, you want to know how to create a specific like Kubrick effect or Christopher Nolan style like time effect or time warp, whatever, you put that into YouTube, and there's like hundreds of people that are just like that have quick videos of showing you how to do that. And that works with any software or anything like that. So like if you are using iMovie or Premiere, there's tons of people talking. So definitely like learn from others, try to figure, but like the most important is like try to figure out yourself firstly, because filmmaking is all about problem solving, and editing is so much problem solving, because you just need to figure out like, okay, how I'm going to turn the bin of footage into one story.
I think that also you could benefit a lot from this problem solving by finding other aspects of editing that you maybe weren't even looking for. So like you're looking for the white balance tool, and suddenly you figure out how to create that slow motion like randomly. So you can get a lot out of like trying to figure it out yourself. Onto the regarding the point with YouTube, I would suggest also just making sure and looking out that when you're asking questions, you're doing the right like update, because sometimes there's like older versions of the software that you're using, and not all of the software updates are the same, obviously. So that's something just to keep in mind and look for when you're looking things up online. But yeah, I agree with everything that Alvaro said. And we're also here to help. If you can't find it on YouTube, we're more than happy to like give you like meet via Zoom, email, text message, whatever you need and help out too. You're on mute, Alvaro.
Any other questions? Anything specific that you want to talk about? Cool. So yeah, I guess 4:40.
Good meeting.
Yeah, good seminar. Hopefully everyone learned a little bit about editing.
Thanks. That was great.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good day, guys.
Yes.
Bye.